Now let's move on to the perimeter of a rectangle. Once again, I am working from the number Power book labeled Geometry. It's a super great book to work from. Now, we talked about a perimeter of a square, and you do need to know the difference between a rectangle and a square. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here on that. There's some good videos on YouTube about that. Mathanix has a lot of good videos about that. But quickly, a rectangle still is four-sided, but it has two sides that are the same, and the other two sides are the same. Not all four sides are the same. So it's different from a square in that you have two long sides and you have two short sides. And we label the long sides the length, and we label this shorter sides the width. And it doesn't seem like it matters which one is which, but sometimes it does kind of make a difference. So I just remembered that L for length is L for long, okay? So that way you don't ever have to think about it. You know exactly how to label it. Now the formula for a rectangle, for the perimeter of a rectangle, is P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Now, well, I write it out like that so you know what it stands for, but we really write it 2L plus 2W. Okay, so that's our formula. And remember our steps for solving the problem. Our steps are to draw and label. So right now, while we're practicing, we want to draw and label everything on your test, because it's times you may have a problem you can do on mental math, and that's great. Go for it. But right now, we're going to overkill and draw and label everything. Then we want to write our formula. And then we want to plug our numbers in. That's called substitution. And then we will use algebra to solve it. Now, when you write your answer, you must report your units with it, okay? And remember that for perimeter, our units are plane units, which means you don't square them or anything. So that's a point to notice. Perimeter has plane units, and you'll see why this is important as we continue with area and volume. And I say plane because the P for the plane goes with the P for perimeter, and that means you're just going to have, let's say you had inches, then it's just inches, or feet, it's just feet, or if it's miles, it's just miles, or centimeters, or meters, or whatever your units are. So you don't have any squared, like it's not inches squared or inches cubed, just plain units, okay? So let's do a couple of just real easy problems, but we're still going to do the overkill of the drawing and the labeling. So get your pen or your pencil out. Get your formula sheet out. I'm working primarily for HiSET. HiSET formula sheet does have the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, and so does GED. So, you know, GED's got a really nice formula sheet. So get your formula sheet out, because that needs to be your best friend for a while. All right, so let's look at one. So draw your picture quickly. Doesn't have to be beautiful. Don't be OCD about your sides not being perfect, because we're just doing this for our own visual purposes. So we have 9 yards and 4 yards, and I'm asking you for the perimeter. So remember, our first step was to draw and label. So we drew it, but we didn't label it. Now, you have to know the shape of this to know what formula to use. So that's why it's important to know your figures. So you should recognize that this is a rectangle. And therefore, if it's a rectangle, you've got a length and you've got a width. So which one is which? Well, the longer side is the length, and the shorter side is the width. We are looking for perimeter, and it is important to mark with a question mark what you do not know in the problem. So there's our draw and label. Now we want to write the formula. Of course, obviously the formula is the one we just went over, but on the test you won't know, so you'll have to choose the right formula for the right figure. So that's perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. And now we want to substitute. So the P, do you have a number for P? No. So the P stays in the formula. You don't put a question mark there. You just leave the letter P. You keep the equal signs. Don't skip your equal signs. You keep the number 2. But do you have a number for L? Yes. You have 9. Now, I'm not going to include the units in the problem so that it's easier for you to see. Keep the plus sign. That's part of the formula. Keep the 2. That's part of the formula. Do you have a number for the W, width? Yes, it's 4. Parentheses, put the 4. Now, you can just take this and put it straight in the calculator, and let me show you how to do that. I'll turn this light on so you can see. You just say 2 parentheses, 9 parentheses. You can always just put it straight in like that. 2 parentheses, 4 parentheses. So there you go. Hit enter. You got 26. Now, if you want to do it, or you're good at mental math and you already saw that gave you 18 plus 8, then you could just put that in the calculator. That's fine too. The perimeter is 26 and the units are yards. Now, please note as we continue to work, the reason that we could put this in the calculator like it was is because the perimeter, the P, the variable, was over here by itself on the side of the equal sign. Anytime there's a number next to your variable, you're going to have to use your algebra. You did not have to use algebra. Notice step 4 said use algebra. We didn't really have to use algebra. That was just a math problem. So that's very straightforward, very easy. So let's do another one. Just some easy problems right off the bat to kind of get you started. So you have 21 feet, 13 feet. I'm asking you to solve perimeter. So you got to know the shape. Of course, my shape is kind of bad, but I'm not worried about that right now. Okay? So I'm going to label this. I recognize that it's a rectangle, so that's length because it's the long side. Notice it's not in the same position there. Width. And I'm looking for perimeter. You've got to mark what you're looking for. That's one of the most important things in math is to identify what you're being asked. Now, because I know that that is a rectangle, I go and get my formula for the perimeter of a rectangle and write it. Yes, I know you wrote it, write it again. Okay? And then here we go. Do you have a number for P? No. P stays in. Keep the equal sign. Keep the 2. Do you have a number for L? Yep, 21. Use parentheses. You can't put a number next to another number because that'd look like 221. So that's not, can't do that. Keep the plus sign. Keep the 2. Do you have a number for W? Yes. Put it in. Use your parentheses. Now just take that to your calculator and work it. Plug it right in using your parentheses. And you get 88. Okay, and we got plain units. So this time the units are feet, not feet squared or anything like that. So those are very straightforward and very simple. When your units are just plain unit, yards and not a mixture. You didn't notice your units were in the same. You had the same type of unit like it was in yards and feet because you can't do that if it's yards and feet. That's a whole different thing. All right.